Hi, welcome back to my channel, Fix and Repair. Today I'd like to show you my newest Power King tractor, which I recently purchased from John. He did the restoration on it, and I did the modifications to it. So you're going to see a few things I changed on it. In a previous video, I had a problem where the belt flew off the main pulley on the front of the tractor. It got lodged between the pulley and the engine. It got wound up in there and it started flip-flopping around. Broke my fuel line, ripped off some wiring, and I didn't know what was going on with the PTO and the wiring. So I'm going to show you, I have everything fixed and I modified the deck. I'm going to show you all the modifications I did to this tractor, so I won't have that problem in the near future when I take it out in the pasture and I start mowing again this tall grass with a bunch of bramble bushes in it. Alright, so I'll show you what I did here. Pop open the hood. And I had a problem with this tractor. It was backfiring and it didn't want to run on half to full throttle. Put the phone down. And I didn't want to take the carb apart and clean it. And one guy suggested getting some sea foam. Instead I had some Lucas product, and I dumped that in there, a lot of it. And every time I ran it, less and less problems. And when I replaced the fuel tank, I ran clean gas in there, and I had very little. I had a little bit more Lucas to it. So for the people out there thinking that that doesn't work, I can let you know that it does. And for my problem, my carburetor was dirty, so that's why it fixed the backfiring. Okay, come over to this side. The problem was I didn't know about the wiring that was down in there, because actually a piece of wire got lodged inside the hole of the power takeoff, and it was a piece of wire that got ripped off from the headlight. That's this green one here, and I thought that was part of the wiring for the power takeoff, which it wasn't. And anyway, what I did here, you can see I put a different gas tank on. Originally I had that steel gas tank. What I did was I cut out the brackets that hold that steel gas tank, and I took a piece of flat stock, ran it across, and I bolted it to the frame so it still has the rigidity to the sides here. And then I took some of these brackets here, and there's two of them come on each of a Craftsman lawn tractor, one of those tractors from the 90s or early 2000s. That holds the transmission in place. So I put them together like so, and then I drilled holes in the flat stock, and I used that to hold the gas tank in place. I don't remember what the gas tank came off of, because I've torn quite a few of these lawn tractors apart. I'm guessing, and I'm thinking it's probably like a 2015 Craftsman, because it's a pretty big tank. That was my guess. I'm not for sure though. Okay, and then I had to put a new fuel line on, and I ran it to the carb down there, obviously. What else can I show you? I did the wiring. I put the new loom on it. I had one problem when I hooked up the wiring, and as you can see, just kind of weird underneath here, that there's a power. It goes to, this is the takeoff, and then it also goes to the headlights. So when I first wired it, I had this green wire which goes to the headlight switch. I had that in combination with this one from the power takeoff. So if I turn on the headlights, the power takeoff came on, or vice versa, which I quickly figured out what was going on there. Okay, what else can I say? Now I guess I'll talk about the modifications I did to the mower deck so I don't have that same problem again. It showed you the fuel tank. Oh, and also for the fuel tank here, remember that shield? I just zip tied it to the front so it doesn't, gas doesn't splash up on the wiring for the headlights. Okay. So if you come down here, I borrowed this idea. I noticed two other guys on the Power King sites, they had something similar. They took a piece of angle iron and they bolted it in here to make pulley guides, or actually belt guides I should say. I did the same thing, but the only difference was I extended, this is a 1973 by the way, I extended this orange piece, this piece of stock here, I extended it out with two pieces bolted on each side, and I ran a bolt through it, and then I ran a bolt through the two pieces here. I get it in focus, and then that's the original hole that's in that orange piece. I just used that. And I got the belt guide as close as I could, and that will definitely help. Another problem I noticed, the way this 73 is set up, it only has one spring on it, and when this thing started running, I noticed this side here was bounced quite a bit, and I didn't like it because I figured the belt would come off the pulley again. To solve that problem, over here, this is where the manual engagement would be on this tractor, and the handle would run out this way. I don't know if it's foot engage or hand engage or what, but I just put a grade 8 bolt in here, and I put 2 springs on it, and I also had some chain links I put in here, and I put these springs, and they came off some tractors that tore apart, and I drilled out these holes, and I think these holes had something to do with that lever that was mounted there. And I just add these springs to it so it takes out some of that bounce. It was just bouncing too much. Now if we go to the deck, originally the pulley setup was that these pulleys would run on the outside of the belt, but I had some spare belts left over, and you have so much room here, I made them run on the inside, so I had to put different pulleys on there. And these pulleys came off another Sears Craftsman tractor, and then I modified these belt guides so they would fit on there. I had to bend them just a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. It's on the other side, so it would fit on there. And then I spaced it up with washers, you can see. So I got them running true. I'll go to the other side and show you what I did over there. This one I put a larger belt on it, so all I did was I took a piece of stock and I extended this out, and it was a piece that came off the back where it had rollers on, and extended the rollers down. So you can see I put some wheels on it instead, because when I'm mowing, if I have rollers on it, it binds up, it catches everything in the back. This way everything can shoot out the back. I think these came off a John Deere deck. Maybe you can see here what I did. The cat's coming to say hello. Okay. Then also, when I got the deck, it had one chain that ran from here up, and I didn't like it because the deck was leaning to one side and it was bouncing all over the place. So I added 2 pieces of chain, and the way to have the same amount of links, I had to put one towards the back, then one towards the front, and then I bolted it together, and that way it's more balanced now. Okay, now show you this. Okay, I can get in there. You see it? You can see I added some pulleys in here. There they are. There they are. And I added those pulleys so it would make the belts tighter. I'll lay underneath it and you can see. There we go. Now those pulleys came off, I believe, an old rototiller or an old snowblower. And they're quite small. And the guides, they came off the Sears Craftsman tractor. And what I did was I drilled little holes so those belt guides would slip in there. That way they won't spin around in that pulley. They'll always stay in that position. And a piece of stock right there where they're mounted. Okay. And then I had to cut it out so I could get my wrench in there. You can see the bolt head right there. And I spaced it up with washers. One is higher than the other. I got the belts riding center of those pulleys. The piece I used had pre-drill holes, and it was actually off a boat trailer my neighbor gave me, and I tore it apart, and those were part that held the leaf springs in place on that boat trailer. Leaf spring shackles, I think, or leaf spring brackets for the shackles, who knows, but that's what they were from. So it works really well. I like it. Now what happened was, running over those big bushes, and they came up and they knocked that belt off. So I came up with the idea, my neighbor gave me these shelving pieces. I believe this was probably out of maybe a stereo system rack or computer rack. It has all those pre-drilled slots in it to let air through for airflow. And I mounted that underneath here, so when the bushes come underneath, after they hit the bumper pushes it down, comes underneath, and it channels everything. And then this shield here protects the belts as well, and that shield came off of a small chipper. And I kept that piece of metal, thinking I could use it for something. And that's what I used it for. So now all my belts are protected. So hopefully no branch gets shoved in there and knocks my belts off. Last time, and I have that big disaster. And there's the bumper I made. Everything's bolted together because I don't know how to weld. And then I put a toolbox on here. I will put the hood down. I'll put the phone down. Second. The hood down. I also added this bracket to the side. So this bracket runs down and it runs into an angle and goes across like that. It's bolted to the other one, and that way that supports the back end of the shield. I reinforced it with another piece of metal. Should be strong enough now. So this is what I came up with. This is the whole tractor. John did a beautiful job restoring it. Another little addition I did was I changed the fitting down there for the hydraulic cylinder, the one in the back. It's brass. Changed that up. This is just the grommet that's hanging there. It didn't work, but I just left it on there. That way it's more centered in this hole. Otherwise the other hose was rubbing. Did add a hitch on the back. That hitch came off an International tractor that I had kept. It's really nice. I painted it to match. And my spare gas tank tied in the back here. I don't get stranded.